I'm here again with a video to introduce Pink Floyd to you newbies and seasoned prog fans alike, in the fourth of my series on the Big Six of prog rock. Now, in this series, where I introduce these progressive rock or prog bands to newcomers and seasoned fans alike, you know I've been diving deep into some of the most influential, daring and outright mind-blowing bands that have ever taken to the stage. Today's no exception, and it's our time to turn our attention to the fourth of the Big Six bands. We're going to dig into the legendary Pink Floyd. Now, even if you think you know everything about the band, stick around. You never know, because I've got some fascinating background and insights that will hopefully deepen your appreciation for this one-of-a-kind band. This is going to be an unforgettable journey, so let's get started. I'll be covering the band's early formation and the Syd Barrett years. I'll be looking at the rise of Roger Waters' creative dominance, and also their massive success, internal struggles, and the eventual split. Now, Pink Floyd are not just another band, they're one of the most groundbreaking and influential musical groups in history. They didn't just play music, they created immersive, multisensory experiences that pushed the boundaries of what rock music could be. Their blending of experimentation, deeply philosophical themes, and unforgettable visual art changed how we experienced music altogether. But how did this unique combination of talent, creativity, and vision come together? How did this group of London musicians transform into one of the most defining acts of the progressive rock era? So our story begins in London in the mid-1960s, at a time of immense cultural change. Amid the rise of psychedelic movement, Syd Barrett, Roger Waters, Nick Mason and Richard Wright, they came together to form Pink Floyd. From the start, they were a little different. While other bands were riffing on blues or early rock and roll, Floyd were already experimenting with sounds and textures, bringing in elements of jazz, avant-garde, art, and surrealism. Now, at the centre of this early version of Pink Floyd was Syd Barrett. He was the band's original frontman, songwriter, and visionary. Syd brought a otherworldly quality to their music, both playful and strange. This debut album, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn in 1967, was like nothing else at the time. It was a mix of whimsical, often childlike lyrics with deeply experimental sonic landscapes. Songs like Astronomy Domini and Interstellar Overdrive made Floyd one of the leaders of the London underground scene. But while the music was groundbreaking, the pressures of fame and heavy drug use started to take its toll on Barrett in particular. His behaviour became increasingly erratic, and the band realised that they just couldn't go on with him at the helm. They made the almost impossible decision to bring in a new guitarist, David Gilmour, and Syd, the man who had been the heart and soul of Pink Floyd, left the band shortly thereafter. Losing Barrett could have spelled the end for Pink Floyd, but instead it marked the beginning of a new era. With David Gilmour on board, the group found their footing once again, and Roger Waters began to take more control over the band's creative direction. Now, over the next few years, they explored increasingly conceptual and experimental ideas, pushing the boundaries of rock in ways that no one else was doing at the time. Then came 1973's The Dark Side of the Moon, that album that changed everything. Pink Floyd weren't just a band anymore. They were a phenomenon. Dark Side was a thematic exploration of the human experience. Tracks like Time, Money, Us and Them. The album explored existential themes like mortality, greed, and mental illness. It also redefined what was possible in a recording studio, using sound effects, tape loops, and innovative production techniques to create an experience that felt cohesive and immersive. This wasn't just another album, it was an event. Dark Side of the Moon spent a jaw-dropping 14 years on the Billboard charts. and to this day it remains one of the best-selling records of all time. More than that, it set a new bar for what a rock album could be, something more than just music, something that made you feel. But Pink Floyd weren't done pushing the envelope. Just 2 years later, in 1975, they released Wish You Were Here, an album that both was deeply personal and biting in its critique of the music industry. The iconic tracks Shine On You, Crazy Diamond, and the title track itself, Wish You Were Here, these were heartfelt tributes to long-lost band member Syd Barrett, whilst also showing the band's disillusionment with fame and commercialisation of art. Now, their ability to tackle such intimate themes whilst maintaining their vast atmospheric sound set them apart from virtually every other band on the planet. However, as the success continued, so did the tension within the group, particularly with Roger Waters and the rest of the band. Now, by the time they released Animals in 1977 and The Wall in 1979, Waters had become the primary creative force within Pink Floyd. The Wall itself was an ambitious rock opera about isolation, alienation, and emotional trauma, with hits like Another Brick in the Wall and its famous refrain, "We don't need no education." The Wall just wasn't a concept album, it was a fully fledged production, complete with an elaborate live show where they literally built and then tore down a wall on stage. But this success came at a cost. The creative and personal tensions within the band were reaching boiling point again. And by the time the Wall tour ended, Richard Wright had been fired, and the band members were barely speaking. The follow-up album, The Final Cut in 1983, was essentially a Roger Waters solo project, and shortly after this, Waters himself left the band. Now, for many fans, that was the end of Pink Floyd. How could the band possibly go on without their primary lyricist and conceptual mastermind? But credit to Gilmour, Mason and Wright, they weren't ready to call it quits just yet. In 1987, they released A Momentary Lapse of Reason, and this was followed by The Division Bell in 1994, a favourite of mine. These albums, while sometimes polarising, still attracted huge followings and allowed Floyd to continue filling stadiums around the world. Now, although the post-Waters era didn't reach the same heights, creatively, Floyd's ability to evolve and carry on after such seismic shifts is a testament to their sheer talent and determination. Pink Floyd's legacy is undeniable. They didn't just play music, they redefined it. From Syd Barrett and his psychedelic beginnings, to Roger Waters' grand conceptual visions, to David Gilmour's emotive, soaring guitar work. Pink Floyd influenced not just the prog world, but music as a whole, and they've left behind a body of work that still feels as relevant, as powerful, and as deeply affecting as it did when it first hit the airwaves back in the day. But in this video on screen now, get ready to explore the next prog titan. This time it's Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and find out what happens when classical virtuosity, bombastic compositions and wild experimentation take centre stage. If that video is ready, you will see it here on screen. If you don't see it, it means I haven't posted it yet, so make sure you hit that notification bell and stay subscribed to the channel so that you don't miss out. I thank you all for watching and look forward to seeing you on the next video.